A pivotal Game 5 in Denver, Colorado, tonight. And we're talking about it right now on the Mile High Hoops podcast with me, Jake Shapiro, and him, Anilo Piro, presented by Mountain High Appliance. AP, I think the Clippers played their best trick that they could, like the best trick in their bag late in Game 4 against the Denver Nuggets. It wasn't the zone, but it was the people playing the zone. It was the first time all series that the Clippers had 4 shooters on the floor together with Ivica Zubac, and I think that really got into the Nuggets. Are you concerned at all thinking about that specifically moving forward into Game 5?
Old pal Bogdanovic, Jokic's European brother out there making an impact late in that game on the fourth quarter. Look, I think it's definitely something to keep an eye on, but I think the fact that the Clippers, pulled that out of their bag of tricks and deployed that in a loss, I think is actually something to be optimistic about, because now if they throw it at Denver again here in Game 5, Game 6, maybe a Game 7, at least they've seen it before, as opposed to saving it Clippers up 3-2. Here you are, Denver up 4, Game 6, a minute and change left or whatever, and they deploy that. So I think the fact that it came in a loss actually benefits the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, I agree. And now it's in Jokic's data bank. The Nuggets have seen it. I think they're going to know how to react to it. Even late in the fourth quarter, Jamal Murray makes 2 shots. Nikola Jokic hits that insane Sombor spinning shuffle, blah, 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 3 times around. I don't even know what it was. But they started to figure it out late in the fourth quarter of that game. To me, the zone isn't the concern. To me, it's the fact that the Nuggets defense is so porous, and they have been using the fact that they can rotate off Chris Dunn or Ben Simmons all series long. And with Bogey Bogdanovic out there, they can't do that. Flip side, Jamal Murray is going to absolutely light up one of these Clippers guards if they don't have Chris Dunn out there for a significant amount of the game.
Yeah. Is this the Jamal game, Jake? He was good in Game 3. I mean, I talked to you about it on the Mile High Hoops podcast on Saturday, that if Denver had lost that game, the first person that we're pointing the finger at is Jamal Murray for his performance. So he's had one good game, but we have yet to see the firm playoff Jamal arrival. And frankly, we talked about it a bunch on Saturday as well. Can Denver carry over some momentum? I'll come out and say it right now here as well. I think the winner of this game here tonight in Denver will ultimately win the series between the Nuggets and the Clippers. So Jamal's got to show up. Denver's got to be on 10. Jokic's got to do his thing. And this is a critical game for the Denver Nuggets to get the job done here at home at Ball.
Yeah, I just talked about it on the rundown on Denver Sports YouTube channel. Like and subscribe to make sure you're watching Richie's show. It's a really good show as well. I'm not a sports gambler, so don't take my gambling advice. Like I'm not a big into gambling either. But let's just say there were Jamal Murray props out there of how many points he scores. I don't even know what they are. I'm just taking everything over tonight. I really like Jamal Murray tonight. He's over my left shoulder in doll form. And, I think tonight's the night that Jamal Murray really goes off. I think that the Clippers are going to think themselves too hard into what they need to do on offense to boat race the Nuggets. And it's going to be up to Jamal Murray to answer the bell on the other end. Now, I do get worried about when people focus on trying to beat the Denver Nuggets offensively and just throwing the defense out the window, because I think that's what the Lakers started doing here recently, and that's been the trick that's actually worked for them. Eventually, you just have to hope Nikola Jokic and the crew start missing shots. Like, you can't stop them on defense for an extended amount of time over the course of a game. So them focusing more on offense does concern me a little bit if the Clippers do indeed do that. But in the same regard, I don't think that we've seen the best of Jamal Murray yet. And at the same time, with Jamal Murray, his legs look great. I think he's getting great push. I like the way he's playing. The shots just aren't falling.
Well, and you have to imagine that the Nuggets flu has hopefully subsided, because that was middle of last week when that kind of first came out and whatnot. So you'd hope that, he's now had a full game after the initial flu game, not trying to compare him to Jordan, obviously, but the sickness game, you'd expect him to be as close to 100% as he has been all series, I guess is the point that I'm trying to make. And frankly, the fact that we haven't had the Jamal game yet, like I was talking about it with Matt, our producer here earlier, like, if the Clippers lose this series, it's a disgrace. Like, I don't think the Nuggets have played even close to as good as we've expected them to, or we know that they can. And so that's where I think Denver, after holding off the Clippers ambush there in the fourth quarter late, they have a real opportunity to come out here and go up 3-2 and put the pressure on the Clippers to win 2 games back-to-back. And I think the common denominator in that is Jamal Murray, because we know MPJ's banged up. He can't lift his left arm. Christian Brown's been up and down. He has his handful with defense. We've talked about the bench ad nauseum, and we know that Jokic is Jokic. So can Jamal be the guy to step up and be that true Robin to Jokic's Batman? If that is the case, I think Denver comes out victorious tonight, but it's a big if.
What's going to spark the Nuggets tonight?
I think it's everything I just said. I think Jamal Murray has to set the tone. I think because Jokic is going to play the same way that he always plays, right? Back down, pirouette, look for the, guys slashing down the middle, Christian Brown, end around, whatever it might be. You expect that from Nikola Jokic. But again, no, and Michael Porter Jr. has been such an interesting topic of conversation this entire season, but in particular in this series, because it's kind of hard to hold maybe some of his shortcomings offensively against him because of what he's dealing with the shoulder. So that's where, again, you turn to the one guy, you talked about it, legs look healthy, mentally should be okay, sickness is hopefully subsided. Jamal Murray is the one guy with not a quote-unquote built-in excuse that you need to step up here tonight.
Should Michael Porter Jr. be playing in this game tonight?
Yes, I think so, because I think it's a game for your life. That's how
No. Should the NBA be allowing
you're
Michael
talking about
Porter
it from that
Jr.
perspective
to play in this game tonight?
I
mean, we already
so.
know, but did they make the right decision?
Yeah, I think so. It's not and I think Adelman had the quote yesterday that I saw from you and read about it on denversports.com, talking about how that was a rule that I believe was enacted back in the day in the 80s and the 90s with the bad boy, or am I right?
It was after the Malice at the Palace.
Okay, which is obviously to be expected. And so if that's the precedent that's set, MPJ wasn't even, I don't even think he registered on a scale of 1 to 10 if we're comparing it to the Malice of the Palace. And I think you and I talked about it. That is a natural instinct for when you're on the sideline, you're on the bench, and you see your teammates throwing fists with the other team. Naturally, you're going to get up and you're going to, observe and, want to get in there for your teammates. So you don't want the officials or the league in this instance to potentially handicap a series over something that was a non-factor. I understand that in technicality, he broke a rule, but that didn't lead to anything malicious on the court. So I think it's the right call.
If you actually read the rule, technically he didn't break the rule because it's a judgment call of what the vicinity of the bench even is and what happens when you leave that vicinity of the bench area. What is the intent? I've been highly critical of the NBA officials, whether it be in my writing on this podcast or on social media. The NBA could not have handled this entire situation better. No one got kicked out of the game. They kept everyone in the game. They said, hey, everyone take a breather. It's about to be halftime. We're going to be okay. They didn't take any player away for the remaining games of the series. They looked at the track record of these teams. They listened to both coaches and players and everyone saying, we've got mad respect for the other side. It just gets a little intense sometimes. It's not even like what we saw last night in the Rockets-Warriors game where Jimmy Butler's outright saying after the game, I do not like Dylan Brooks.
That was crazy.
That's crazy. And then you've got Draymond kicking people and all this other stuff. I didn't even think any of that necessarily crossed the line per se, but you have motive there and a history with some of those players of this could spew over in a way that gets ugly. We do not have that with Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon, who just got a story released about him about being the greatest uncle ever. This is not these guys. So I applaud the NBA for their handling of this situation. Furthermore, this was sparked, this entire situation, by Christian Brown. And to me, that's the guy who needs to spark the Nuggets tonight. I do think Jamal Murray needs to go 27 for 27. I think that's what needs to happen from the Blue Arrow. But in the same regard, I think the Nuggets won game 4 because of Christian Brown at the start, made himself a menace on the offensive glass. He made himself a threat on offense. He got some transition buckets. And I don't care if he goes 1 for 7 from 3 sometimes. That's going to happen if he's playing like that. And he was up in James Harden's chili. James Harden was not a factor in that game for 3 quarters. So to me, if Christian Brown can play like he did in game 4 or in game 4 again in game 5, to me, that's why the Denver Nuggets will win. And by the way, Aaron Gordon, who had an awesome, memorable game in terms of the greatest maybe buzzer beater in Nuggets history, as well as just this awesome playoff moment in that fight. He wasn't that efficient in that game, and I didn't think he was that good for most of that game in terms of bringing the physicality into the paint. He brought it onto the perimeter, and the Nuggets are so reliant in this series on bringing that physicality to the ball, to every single catch. They need to be on time with their rotations. They need to meet people when they get the ball. And Aaron Gordon, I thought, frankly, was just okay at it in game 4. Jamal Murray was not that good at it. So I think there's another level that the Nuggets can hit, particularly on the defensive end. And you got to hope, and this is crazy that I'm, of all people, saying this, you got to hope Russell Westbrook's healthy to just be some legs for 10 to 20 minutes in this game.
Yeah, exactly. And again, like listening to you say all that stuff again, like how is this series tied right now? And I think that's bad on the Clippers part, I guess is what I'm trying to say, right? And so we know that Denver's margin for error is this big. And you kind of just listed off, well, we need Russ because we just need legs, right? We've talked about Strawler, we've talked about Peyton Watson. And I agree with you to bring it back to Christian, like what he did in game 4 needs to be replicated in game 5. And you bring up the 1 for 7 from 3 type dynamic, right? You have to live with that if he's slowing down James Harden on the end of the floor. And also, like, Christian Braun is a slasher. Christian Braun is not a true 3-and-D guy. Like, can he shoot the 3 ball effectively? Like, I guess in spurts, but he's not a KCP prototype, I guess is what I'm trying to say. They can match up similarly defensively, although KCP has years and years of knowledge and experience to apply on the defensive end of the floor. But I agree with you. I think Jamal Murray and Christian, again, knowing what you're going to get from Jokic and just kind of knowing the overall stature of this roster, like they're going to need good games tonight. And we've seen Christian go out there and hoop and run up the scoreboard a little bit. Like 20 plus points for Christian Braun is not completely out of the equation. Now, will that happen here tonight? I'd rather see him focus on the defense against James Harden, but you know that you have that in your back pocket. And again, you haven't seen that for the most part this series.
I'll outright say it. Ty Lue doesn't deserve to keep his job if the Clippers lose this series.
Well, they got Mr. Van Gundy warming his seat,
who
James Harden apparently has an affinity for. I think it's the first person I've ever heard James Harden like as a coach.
Well, he liked Mark D'Antoni. Like, he did.
True.
Because Mark D'Antoni was just like, just go out there and shoot a bunch. Like, that worked out well. Who's the most surprising Nugget who plays tonight? We're talking about, 9 minutes into the first quarter, maybe early second quarter. You've got this guy playing minutes because we had Vlatko make a random appearance.
2 minutes.
And as well as Jalen Pickett got played off the floor in game 4. So who's playing tonight in some of these random minutes, especially if Russ is not playing?
Well, I think Peyton Watson's always an option, but it could very well be Julian Strawther. Like Strawther's the one guy who I don't think is really been given. Has he played at all this series?
Well, he played at the end of game 3 in garbage time.
Right. So like not meaningful minutes. So from a skill set persona, knowing Russ might be down and out with the injury, I mean, Julian Strawther makes the most sense.
Yeah. And to me, that I agree with that. I said it after the game 3 podcast in here on the Mile High Hoops podcast. If you're not going to play defense anyway, which the Nuggets sometimes don't do, you might as well have your best 3-point shooter on the floor in Julian Strawther. He's a guy who does different things with the ball, a movement shooter. I'm going to make a bold prediction of my guy who plays tonight. He has not played yet in the David Adelman era of Denver Nuggets basketball. So we are 7 games into that, right? In the 8th game of the David Adelman era, he dusts off Zeke Naji, and we see some Zeke Naji minutes tonight.
The forgotten child, Zeke Naji. Worst contract in the NBA is Zeke Naji.
5th. Nah, he's not the worst contract.
Among.
I don't think so.
Untradeable contract, Zeke Naji, put it that way.
Again, I don't even think that's true because if you staple a couple second-round picks to that can get moved.
Well, how many second-round picks does Denver have?
None. That's why it's untradeable, but it's not because of Zeke. Like, it's not that situation alone. Like, who's trading for Joel Embiid right now, Anilo? Who's trading for Brandon Ingram right now after that extension?
Hey, I'll take BI in Denver. I'll take BI in Denver.
I almost lost it. We're not doing this.
We're not doing for the offseason. I'll take BI in Denver, though.
Horrible. That's a really
you want him or LaMelo Ball? Because those might be your 2 options.
Well, BI just got extended, so he's not going to be on the market either way. But if you're telling me I can try and take a shot on LaMelo Ball and maybe the value's a little lower, I might do that if I'm desperate like Denver. I think I'd rather do that than trade for the older star like we've seen the Bucks. Like if I'm the Nuggets this offseason, the number one goal for me is just breaking everything in the mold that the Bucks have been doing the last 3 years because we are following down the same path here in Denver. So it's time to do something completely different, whether it's running it back for one more season, unlike the Bucks did, or it's, trading for a younger player rather than an older player with your star crossed desperation trade. But for tonight, the Nuggets have done a great job rebounding in this series against the number one rebounding team in the league. They need to do a little bit better on the defensive glass. That's going to be part of AG. I think Zeke Naji, who's not a good rebounder, but can just be a body, is one of the reasons why he might get some playing time tonight. DeAndre Jordan's free throws, especially at the end of a first quarter, which he rarely ever plays the end of the first quarter because Nikola normally plays the entire first quarter, but you can't put him out there because you're probably going to be in the bonus and you don't want DJ to get, be on the line. So the second quarter for 3 minutes is really all that you can play DJ in this game. I don't love that, but I would put DJ out there probably with Zeke Naji, with Peyton Watson, with Russell Westbrook if he's healthy. If not, maybe it's Jamal Murray and Julian Strother for 3 minutes at the start of the second quarter. And if you instantly allow 2 threes, pull them right away. If they're okay, pull them still after 3 minutes. But you just need some bodies out there to play a couple minutes. And I think taking some minutes off of Aaron Gordon's body is as big as taking some minutes off of Nikola Jokic's body as well, given all that's been asked of Aaron Gordon in this series and every single time he steps on the floor for the Nuggets.
I think that's fair. And I think there's also a built-in advantage probably for both teams, but having 2 full days of rest from the last time that they played. I mean, we talked about it. If that game went to overtime in game 4, I mean, Denver's losing that by 10. Like they were gassed. So I do think they catch a little bit of a break here with the 2 full days of rest. And I actually agree with you, man. And Zeke down the stretch there, end of the Malone era, serviceable, like not as unplayable as he had been in previous stretches. Like he was okay. Like passable. So to your point, even if it's just for 2, 3, 4 minutes, just to lighten the burden a little bit on some of these other guys could pay dividends in what I expect to be another tightly contested matchup here with 4 minutes to go in the fourth.
You've got something you're looking for in this game 5. You're curious about. What is it?
Well, I don't know if you want to frame it that way. It has nothing to do with the game. Let me save that for the very, very end because it's more of a fun.
Well, I was going to the very end right here, unless you had something else you wanted to touch on.
No, okay, all right, I'll throw it out there. It's a social media frenzy right now, and there's a big debate going around the office about this 100 men versus the gorilla thing. Okay, but here, I thought of a new question about it. 100 Aaron Gordons versus 1 silverback gorilla. Does that move the needle for you?
I said this in our meeting yesterday, and I truly believe it. I think 10. I think 10's the magic number. I think 10 is fine. So if you're telling me those 10 American men are Aaron Gordon, yes, I'm feeling good with 10 against the silverback gorilla. And here's the thing. I understand the boat. I understand the bite force. I understand how strong a silverback gorilla is. I don't think people realize how big of a human being Aaron Gordon is. Like your favorite Denver Bronco would walk up to Aaron Gordon and look like me or Anilo next to a normal person. Like these guys are huge. So, and the other part about this is people are talking about 100 or, my wife's answer is 20. I think anything over 10, how are you even what are you doing? Like there's not enough room. It's too many cooks in the kitchen.
Bro, a silverback gorilla with one swing of the wrist could kill 10 people instantly.
He's going around like in a circle and just boom.
I think, if it's one-on-one, like if it's man 1 versus gorilla, then man 2 versus gorilla, there's absolutely no chance. I think the only way, and the reason I throw Aaron Gordon out there is 100 U's and me's, we're getting smoked.
Yeah.
Not even a question. Smoked. We're not even on the face of the earth after that battle. But like 100 Aaron Gordons, right? Dude's kind of built like a Greek god. He's got the size. He's got some agility. He's got the strength. Like, I don't know, because I think 100 average Joes against the silverback gorilla, 0% chance. 100 Aaron Gordons against the silverback gorilla, I could maybe see him getting a 5-10%. I think there's a perfect scenario in which this happens. They all have to attack at the same time. And,
right. To me, it's not a one-on-one thing. It's they're attacking at the same time. So if you give me 3 or 4 of the Aaron Gordons that are taking one for the team and just jumping on the gorilla and trying to strangle it, I think that's when you're fine. That's why I think 10 is the magic number.
I just think the gorilla's pinned down, right? And you've got one AG beating him up in the face. And the other AGs are holding down his limbs. The gorilla, all he has to do is this. And it's like you go flying 50 yards. You do this, you're going flying 50 yards, you're breaking your skull. Like,
you get the gorilla on the ground, you start jabbing it in the eyes.
I don't think the punch is the
mouth.
register. Okay, the eye. That's an interesting.
Am I the only? I mean, I'm Jewish, so I
Weakness.
get it. But like David versus Goliath, like how did David beat Goliath? Like have we not read Roman mythology? It's always jabbing it in the eye. Like that's how you win against these beasts.
I don't know. I just think 100 Aaron Gordons versus a silverback gorilla. Maybe there's a chance. Let us know what you guys think in the comment section. If you think
over under 99.5 Aaron Gordons, what are you taking? Like, how many does it take?
I think it would be max. Like, I don't think any. I think 95 would maybe be like the least amount of Aaron Gordons you could throw at a silverback gorilla and have a chance. I just think we've lost respect, right? We've conquered nature. We keep these animals in cages, right? Like, I think we've lost respect for what these wild beasts are and what they could do when they're ticked off. I just think a gorilla, man. Like, you ever play Donkey Kong? Like, they'll smash you like that. Like, we'd all be like puree, like human puree if we fought a gorilla.
Have you seen the video of the polar bear in Svalbard chasing that guy down who drops his gun and gets on the motorbike?
No, I haven't.
Okay, that's gone viral the last couple of days. So I don't think people know this. I know random facts about everything. That's what I do in my spare time. Svalbard's you legally have to carry a gun in Svalbard, which is an island off of Norway in the Arctic Circle, because there are so many polar bears there, and polar bears are the only animal that still sees humans as prey. So talking about, these beasts, but in thinking about this, I legitimately think there's like only a couple animals that if you give 10, American men against, especially if they're Aaron Gordons, we're not beating. Like I think that the sperm whale is a good candidate just because it's like, all right, that's a different size. Yeah. Like, what are you going to do? You can't even swim. Like, what are we doing against that? But like land mammals, like, I think we got it, like without weapons, just against any animal. Like, I really do. Like, I understand that we don't have weapons, and that is what makes us like, the top dog on the planet. But the fact of the matter is there's one thing that always wins in a fight. As a giant watcher of Mission Impossible, the Impossible Mission Force, there's nothing stronger than the human brain, fella. And that's going to win. Like, so if you get enough manpower in there, the brain's going to come together and it's going to beat them. Like, that's going to work.
Well, if I ever have to fight a gorilla, I'm calling you. You've got the big brain for it, so I appreciate it. Real quick before we get out of here, you got the Nuggets winning or losing tonight?
So this line, did you see the line on this game?
No, I haven't checked.
Okay, so it opened at 3.5 point favorite Nuggets.
Yeah.
It flipped. The Clippers are 1.5 point favorites now. And I was wondering why. Yeah, like I was wondering why that is. Like, I think it's probably related to the fact that the Nuggets haven't been that good at home, and the money has been on the Clippers all series long. I'm surprised Vegas even opened this line with the Nuggets, but I kind of like Vegas's initial take. I like the Nuggets in this game. I think the Clippers are really reaching the breaking point and might fold, especially if the Nuggets come out and punch them in the mouth first and they get to this massive surge, because the Clippers are going to say, all right, well, we went on this massive comeback, but we still got Jokic in the end.
I respect your opinion. I'm going to go the opposite. I actually think the Clippers think they're on the precipice of figuring it out. And I just think that Denver has been worn down. Again, going back to the gorilla analogy, like you're man number 75 and you see your 74 brethren just beaten to smithereens. Like, you're probably questioning yourself. And I think that Denver in their heads a little bit is like, wow, like we got away with that one in game 4. I'm expecting another big Kawhi night. I think James Harden will eventually break through. I want the Nuggets to win, obviously, but I'm not going to allow the Aaron Gordon dunk with a half a millisecond left on the clock to outweigh this 30-something run that the Clippers went on at the end of game 4. I've got the Clippers. Hope you're right. Hope I'm wrong. Saw
what Nikola Jokic did in the third quarter of that game. I think if he's that guy again tonight, you can't beat the Nuggets. Like, that's the thing is we saw that performance.
A lot of pressure, though.
What?
A lot of pressure. It's hard to do that. I know we get used to it when we're spoiled as Nuggets media and people that cover the team and fans alike out there. You can't expect Jokic to be that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Does it surprise if it is? No. But to expect that from a player on a game in and game out basis with the weight of the world on his shoulders, hard to ask, in my opinion.
I'll expect him to get a 30-point triple-double tonight if the Nuggets are to win, because that's what he averaged this season. And that's what he did in that game. So 30-point triple-double, maybe not 21 rebounds, but that was crazy. Anyway, that is the Mile High Hoops podcast. We'll be back in a couple hours talking to you about Game 5 afterwards. A pivotal game in Denver Nuggets history. What happens with Nikola Jokic against the Kawhi Leonard Clippers once again, a foil to the Denver Nuggets over the last several years. We'll be back later on the Mile High Hoops podcast.